Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Thanks for checking out our other videos. If you did, the book that we are reviewing this month that we read together is called Breathing Lessons by Ann Tyler. And I looked her up a little bit afterwards. And this one, Breathing Lessons was one of her 3 books that were nominated for the Pulitzer in Fiction. And Breathing Lessons is the one that won. So she's written 20-something books. She actually did her post-grad at Columbia. One of her books became a movie. I don't think I watched it, but it's still kind of cool. So she must be pretty well known, and you could tell that you could see why her books were up for such an illustrious prize, and she's won so many other competitions that are well known. But obviously we didn't know that going into it, or at least I didn't. Basically, the book is about this middle-aged couple that goes to a funeral about an hour away from their hometown, and their longtime friend's husband has died. So the book kind of goes through their past, their present. It talks about their relationship as a couple, their relationship with their friends, their family. The main character, it was easy to gain sympathy for her and have some empathy, because she's almost like a gambling addict. They always have to gamble one more time, and risk it all. And in the main character's case, what I freaking loved is that she has to meddle in her relationships. She has to manipulate, she just can't keep out of people's business. I saw a lot of myself in her, the bad, but you can also see the good, you see her kind heart, and you see that the effort is there. She wants to do right by people and do the right thing, but she just doesn't know how to do it without meddling and manipulating. I mean, I don't want to go to...
You don't want to give away spoilers?
I mean, why don't you go for a little bit?
Well, I can say that I enjoyed reading the book. I liked how she developed, the dialogue, say, between, the husband's name is Ira and the wife's name is Maggie. When I was reading in Maggie's voice, her train of thought was so jumpy that I feel like she was the Energizer Bunny. At some point, I was like, does she stop? Does she ever stop building these scenarios that are necessary in her head? She develops a fantasy about falling in love with one of the older patrons, and then she was thinking about running away because she was mad at Ira for whatever reason. That she wanted to run away with him and become his mistress, or not mistress, but I guess wife. So these ways that she gets to things is it's kind of funny, but also oh my god, this woman's crazy. And then when you finally hear Ira's side of the story, when you get into his perspective, he's kind of more mellow, and he knows his wife is crazy, and he knows that his wife does these things, but he accepts it because he relies on his wife to be the forward person in the relationship, while he kind of stands back and judges from afar. So it was interesting, that's part that I liked. And also I liked how they jump back in time to present and past was also something I'd like to see how they grew, or how, at least how they came to be. There were some moments where along the car ride, which I wish sped up, but overall it was enjoyable. There were some parts where you just had to be oh my god, is this really happening? But the author did a nice way of immersing yourself in the relationship and their situation.
Yeah, you get a really full depiction of what it was like to grow up in the 50s outside of Baltimore. The book was written and published in the late 80s, and that's the present for this. I think you feel bad for both of them at the end, because the whole story kicks off because Maggie hears on the radio that an unidentified woman is calling into some radio program about relationships, and the woman on the radio station is basically I'm about to marry my second husband this weekend or whatever, but that's for security and money.
The first
one was for love. And Maggie thinks that it's her ex-daughter-in-law, and that she's referencing, her son, basically. So she becomes resolved in that moment to wedge herself in because she feels that her daughter-in-law is still in love with her son and she can kind of get them back together. And the real motive, and this is the theme, the real motive that she has is she wants to have a relationship with her granddaughter.
Yes, and she doesn't want to lose her granddaughter.
And she
because
doesn't
the
want
new
to
husband's coming in,
right.
Allegedly.
So it represents her son not being able to be with the one he loves, and that she wants to rectify. And you're right, she's worried that she's not going to see her granddaughter again. So she's scheming, and her husband is very embarrassed by her. And you kind of learn how she feels unfulfilled. And she's the one that kind of feels like she's settled, just because her mind, like you said, her mind is kind of bouncing all over the place. It's just, okay, I'm just going to come out and say it. There are a lot of parents that this woman resembles. The ones that they make it sound like they have your best interests at heart, but really they're self-centered and they want what they want for you, basically. And that's what this story's about. And there's someone very in particular that this character reminds me of. And I thought it was interesting because you get into her mind and you can affirm it, I
mean, it's also like her justification for the reason why she took these actions, whether they were right and she later found out they were wrong, and somehow she gets herself, like she found herself wrong, but then somehow she gets herself out of it and she's like, well, if you think about it, I thought this, so I'm not actually that wrong. I'm actually not that bad of a person. But also, I just want to say, I just want justice for Daisy. I feel like Daisy was forgotten about. I think Daisy definitely wants out of this family. Like Maggie felt that her relationship with her daughter wasn't strong, and she was always jealous of the friend's mom because Daisy would always stay there and never come home. Like when they walk past her room, her stuff is like all packed up. There's nothing left behind. All her clothes are packed because she's going to college the next day. So like Daisy's like, I want out. Like I don't like these people. This family is too much for me. She's like, I just have to make it until I'm 18.
Well, she is like the daughter. She is studious and more mature in a way. So, she's kind of the outsider. I think it's typical that the person that appears the most troubled in the parents' eyes can sometimes get a huge, proportion of the attention. So I think there's resentment for the daughter in that respect too.
Yeah, no, I can see that, but I can definitely see her like years down the road going to therapy and talking about her mom and how her mom drove her crazy. So I think the daughter kind of was like in a way like over her family, whether it's her brother or her mom or dad, like their antics, and she just like, I'm out. Like I'm not even like, I think they mentioned like she's not leaving anything behind, like she's taking everything with her. Mm-hmm. Like it makes it seem like this girl's not coming back. So I think the daughter kind of pieced out.
But it's also interesting that Fiona, the ex-daughter-in-law, like she even
falls into the same antics that
right with her too. And when Fiona calls her out, like there's a scene that I really liked where it's a flashback to where Fiona finds out that she's pregnant and the son doesn't want to commit necessarily and goes back and forth and then decides like, I want to be the dad, right? Mm-hmm. I'm ready. I'll be the father to this child. And obviously everyone knows that he's just gonna, he gets very passionate about things immediately. And then once the passion's gone, he doesn't want anything to do with it. So he has this change of heart where he wants to be the dad and he's going to try his best. But by then, Fiona is like, I don't want this anymore because I don't trust you. And I think she also doesn't like Maggie because Maggie's all up in their business.
Yeah, she felt suffocated.
So Fiona talks to her sister and the sister convinces her to like, let's go to Planned Parenthood so you don't have to be stuck with this guy. And Maggie like so desperately wants her son to be her son and Fiona to be together, that she drives down to Planned Parenthood and like convinces Fiona not to. And the sister is like, please don't get in the car with her and go to see Jesse, because they're just going to talk you into staying and you're going to regret it.
Yeah, Yeah, but I think that also shows too, like how Jesse is like his mom, where he manipulates his mom to do his bidding, and like she does it because she wants the love of her son.
No, but she lied to him.
But she kept.
She lied to him. Yeah, she lied to him throughout the whole book and was like, she wants to be with you again. She all this stuff, and it ends because towards the end, is Maggie goes to him and says, Fiona still wants you, based on the radio show.
Mm-hmm.
And Jesse's like, I still want her back. But he's like, there's no way that she actually wants to talk. And before she even convinces Fiona to come and talk again, because things don't go well. But, you know, she basically schemes and kind of lies to both of them. Like her plan is basically to lie and then make things work.
Yeah.
It was a good depiction of
a family dynamic that is broken.
Right. Well, it's just like, it's not that broken, but it's broken in the sense to me that the parents clearly shouldn't be together. It just shows what happens when you stay in these relationships that aren't really that great, you know?
Mm.
And Ira just wants to be left alone. I don't think he really wanted to be married. He just didn't want to be lonely. And his family, he didn't feel fulfilled taking care of them because they all had their own
he had resentment
needs
towards his family.
Right, but that's my point. And like Maggie always talks about, you know, I should have been with this guy instead. She's
daydreaming.
Right. She's like not happy, but they won't admit that they're not happy. And they don't think it's clear that they don't think that they're unhappy. But they are. Like we're trained now to know that that's not working, you know? And that's the whole idea of like what marriage is like back in the day, where the women were expected to be dutiful and the men were expected to provide, and everything in between kind of like went under the rug, and no one was trained to like identify that it was messed up, especially when people on the outside probably couldn't see in as well. Like a lot of times you can't see the abuse until it really boils over, but the kids see it, you know, and you can see the anguish that the kids feel based on the parents' mindset.
So with all that said, how many Kisas?
I'll give it 4.5 Kisas. I can't think of a lot of stories that I've read that were similar to that.
Like a human story?
Well, just like the characters were a little different. It's more of a slice of life thing. But the times that they go through, like the way that they think and react to things, along with the, you know, the actual events that are taking place in the flashbacks, like they work really well together. It gave me a better understanding and an interesting perspective because it's not so close. Like I felt you're a little removed. I felt a little removed, even though it was very close to heart. I felt it removed enough that I could laugh. You know, I could laugh with the character, and it's just I thought it was great. It was a breath of fresh air to me, even though it came out in the 80s.
So I like how she made it very immersive and like using the car ride as a way to force these people into close proximity to like reflect on their like positives and negatives that happen throughout their lives. For me, I think I gave it around 3.5, 4 stars because, like I said, I like the dialogue.
4?
3.5 to 4. I'm saying the 4 silently.
Yeah, but you have to pick one because.
Okay, fine, 3.5.
Okay. People in their 30s will appreciate it, and also I think people that are middle-aged now, like, well, not middle-aged, but like in their 50s and 60s, they might appreciate it because it talks about getting old, you know? It talks about getting old and how that affects relationships and learning to control what you can control, or, you know, how some characters just can't give it up. They never grow up. Would you recommend it to anybody?
Yeah, no, I would recommend it to my mom. I'll give it to my mom to read. I'm sure she would enjoy it too. I think people can relate to the situation or relate to the human behaviors that are presented in this book. So, I mean, if you're a psychologist, you'll probably like this book and probably diagnose some of these characters with certain treatments. But I think if you want something that's a good read, that's interesting, and like you can probably finish this book in a couple sittings, then I would recommend it.
The characters are really well developed, and yeah, it's entertaining. It's really entertaining. Yeah. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned. like, subscribe, all that.
Leave a comment.
Bye-bye.